Today we're going to be talking about the Devious Thievery challenge at the Warpriest encounter for the Kingsfall raid, which you will need to complete to get your Kingslayer seal. So for the general basis, I'll be covering what happens in the encounter as if you're playing normal. However, I will cover what happens in the Master Mode version as well, what is different from normal, and what you can do to counteract it if possible, things like that. Also, if you enjoy the video or it does help you, a like and a sub would be appreciated. Also, I stream daily, just saying, link in the description. Moving on. So the core mechanic between normal and master doesn't really change at all. As far as recommendations go for the ad clearing portion of this fight, I would highly recommend you put only Titans and Warlocks up in the front lines of killing the ads, if anybody at all. Obviously, Titans have the whole unkillable bonk syntheseps build thing going on, so they can push rather easily into the enemies and kill all the acolytes and the wizards with just their hammer with pretty confident ease. And then Warlocks, of course, have rifts and fusionates, so they can take care of themselves. Hunters, you have Calibans, and that can kill the acolytes, but that's not going to get the job done against wizards and knights, at least not in one shot, so that's kind of a risky play. So I would recommend just staying up on the ledges, far and away from ads and Warpriest as much as possible. That's my personal recommendation for left and right anyway. In the middle, you could kind of do whatever you want, because let's be honest, the middle is pretty Resident Sleeper and boring. You just have a bunch of Thrall that you just kind of bully the entire time. Also, shout out to Agriceptor, an absolute monster in this encounter, as is with the rest of the game. If you don't have it, go get it, and if you do, effing use it, because it will destroy everything in sight, especially for the Taken phase, when everything is spawning bunched up. One kill on a Thrall, and everything's frozen. It's perfect. The main difference between normal and master is that on master, when you kill the first wave of ads in the hive portion, the knight that would normally be, well, a knight, will now be a barrier champion knight, so you're going to need barrier stunning capabilities for that. On the flip side, if you damage Warpriest enough and happen to get the Taken side without killing him, you will then have to fight Overload champions instead of barrier champions, so keep that in mind. You can either run barrier and Overload, or what I personally would do is hot swap between barrier and Overload depending on the encounter section. You can tell, because obviously you're going to go into DPS with Hive, and then if you happen to not kill him but you do a ton of damage, you know you'll be getting taken, so you'll have a quick moment to switch while the crystal is going away from Warpriest attack. Now, on the subject of the champions that I just mentioned, let's just get loadout options out of the way. Obviously, the giant elephant in the room is going to be Arbalest, by far the best anti-barrier weapon in the game because of its ridiculous synergy with Genesis and the Catalyst and all that nonsense, and obviously the one-shot break on a shield, even on Master Mode. Clearly, it's the #1 option to go with, but not the only one. So keep that in mind, and let's go to the other options. Now, if you're sick and tired of using Arbalest, or you just want to, switch things up, run a sniper in your Connect slot, maybe Succession, you can do that by running something like Poetic Inquiry. Now, it's anti-barrier scout rifle this season, but that's not the only reason to run this. It also has adaptive munitions built in that you can get at the crafting table, guaranteed. And what this does is, when you shoot bullets at an enemy, it does improved damage on top of its normal anti-barrier stun, and it breaks the shield much faster than a normal scout would. The exact wording is, this weapon adapts its damage output to be more effective against energy shields that don't match its damage type, improves damage increase, blah blah blah. It works on champion barriers as well, so this is a really good option for this encounter. And on the flip side, if you don't have this, another scout rifle that can roll this exact perk is Doom of Chaltres. If you're like me, you probably went through like 8,000 of these already, so you probably have one of these rolls in your vault somewhere. It can roll adaptive munitions as well and help you out with those barrier champion stuns. So to cover overloads real quick, yes, div obviously is the guaranteed answer, but you're only going to have one div in your fight, in your fire team, and you don't want to have your div running around everywhere trying to stun every single overload, so you should probably have a bow backup in the event that your div is not on your side for that overload. So, if you're switching from a scout to a bow, go with a bow and an energy slot, because they all roll explosive head, and explosive head just gives you that guarantee stun on an overload, instantly making bows the best stun weapon in the game for overloads outside of just spamming div. For bows, you want to use Trident Whistle for solar. It can roll Dragonfly, explosive head, incandescent, really solid. But if you don't have that, because RNG rolls, Tyranny of Heaven also rolls explosive head. You can use that if you have it from Last Wish. Arc, you have Arsenic Bite. Again, Dragonfly Explosive Head, and it was pretty easy to get back in the day, so if you have one, use that. And then for Void, you have Under Your Skin. Again, you can roll Explosive Head. Also, this is craftable at the war table in the helm, so that's a plus as well. So given that you're going to use Divinity, which is basically a must, because, well, free damage and free amazingly big crits, you're going to have to use Linears, because that's just the best DPS option, plain and simple. You're not going to want to use rockets, you can't use swords, you're not going to use LMGs, so your best bet is a Linear. Now, if you happen to have it, Cataclysmic with Bait and Switch, definitely a monster in this situation. Additionally, you could use Reeds with Supreme Wellmaker to make Stasis Wells to pump your damage as well. And then, of course, you have Taipan, however you want to pronounce it. It is super easy to get. It's craftable from the Enclave. You just go craft it, slap on Clown Cartridge and a damage perk, you're good to go. Any of these will do just fine as long as your DPS phases are consistent, and then you just want to slap on that div to make it nice and smooth. Okay, let's talk about the challenge itself. So Devious Thievery basically wants you to drop the Knight during the damage phase, which would give you the Brand Carrier buff, and then once you have that buff, you need to swap the aura with the player that currently has it within 3 seconds of you picking up that Brand Carrier buff. I know some people say it's 5 seconds. Personally, I've had inconsistency with 5, where it was challenge failed and then it killed you, because that's what happened on day 1. If you fail, you die. So I think it's 3 seconds, but hey, if 5 works for you, that's cool too. The point is, though, you have to pick it up and then swap with your aura person very quickly. So because of this, trying to do the challenge, I think the best method for most people is going to be just rotate your entire fire team based on the positioning of knights and where they spawn. So for example, you start your damage phase as normal. The first knight spawns top left. So your entire fire team, including the aura person, would go all the way to top left, so you can time killing that knight, do your damage, pick up the brand, and then swap with the aura user immediately, thus trying to keep your damage phase intact as much as possible without just having a circus running around everywhere. And then instead of having your damage phase just stay there, you would notice where the next knight is spawning, and then one player can start going there slowly, carrying out the damage on that knight, and then the fire team rotates to that side and then kills the knight, continues damage phase, and you go as normal, put damage on Warpriest, and then pick whatever crystal you want to pick for him to take at the end of the damage phase. So just to give an example, again, you start left, knight would spawn left, your entire fire team would rotate to the left side, you continue to do damage, somebody kills the knight, they pick up the brand, they swap with the aura user within the 3 seconds, continue damage phase, somebody calls out where the next knight spawns. So if the right side is looking out, let's say the right side person calls out, okay, right knight, you would head over there with, let's say, about 8 seconds, something like that. Or if you want, you could even head there immediately. You kill that knight, repeat the process, pick up the brand within 3 seconds, you swap with the aura, do your damage, finish your damage phase, and then you can pick whatever side you want to pick for the crystal, left, middle, right, and then you finish. I want to note one thing while you guys may be doing this, specifically if you're using Cataclysmic, you're going to want to have people on Solar in particular. Warlocks and Titans, you want Fusion Grenades with Starfire, and Titans, you want your Bonk Hammer with Synthos or any damage perk that you can get while throwing your hammers, because when you're running around like maniacs, going from side to side to continue your damage phase to get the challenge done, your Titans and your Warlocks can use their nades / Bonk Hammer to kill that knight, and then that will spawn a Solar Well, which will guarantee a damage boost for your entire fire team using Cataclysmic in that damage phase, and that'll make a world of a difference for you going for this challenge, especially if your fire team is underleveled going in on Master. So if you're like 1591 or God forbid even less, your damage will significantly increase by just doing this small thing. Last thing worth noting, bring multiple wells. You're going to travel from side to side all the damn time. You're probably going to do a 3 or a 4 phase. You're going to need multiple wells, just plain and simple, period. Additionally, if you're having multiple hunters, make sure one of them is on Gathering Storm and the other one is not, because you cannot stack Gathering Storm supers on Warpriest. It's just a waste of time. Titans, your bubble is not needed. Just be on Bonk Hammer, Solar Unkillable when needed, or possibly making Elemental Wells. And that's that. Hopefully this explanation wasn't too confusing, and it helps you guys get the challenge done. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. I'll try to answer as best as I can. Once again, like, share, subscribe would be helpful to the channel. Much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Don't forget the streams as well in the description below. Catch you next time.